Robert, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Looking forward to some great conversations, but as always, just give us a little bit of an insight on what is it that your company does.
But we're developing cancer vaccines, and so think of this as a therapeutic vaccine. So these are vaccines that are used to treat a cancer by triggering an immune response, and then training the body's immune response to hit it again if the cancer comes back. And what we're doing is something very unique in that we're delivering our vaccines to places within our body that you've probably heard of called lymph nodes. And the lymph nodes are critical because they're the brain center of the immune response, and particularly for T cells, which you absolutely have to have a major T cell response to kill the tumor, to kill cancer cells. And so that is engaging the lymph nodes is kind of a secret sauce that was developed at MIT and that we put into place here and that we're now in phase 2 in pancreatic cancer with.
Yeah, anytime I feel a bump, which I kind of have it on the back of my head, but got to check out many times because I always be paranoid. But I can understand why that can really scare some folks and why it's important and your different approach to it as well. I believe in January, you had some promising news that was released with your preliminary PH1, PDAC, and CRC data that I think was published in the Nature Medicine. Can you provide an overview on that data and just give us insights on what is next from there?
Yeah, we're very excited about that. Nature Medicine is about as great a peer-reviewed journal as you can get into. And it was our phase 1, our first phase 1, 25 patients, 20 in pancreatic, 20 in CRC. And these are KRAS mutation-driven tumors. And KRAS drives 25% of all solid tumors. So the program that we have can address 25% of solid tumors. So it's a massive opportunity and need. And the data that we showed, we were able to show that 84% of the patients in this study had T cell responses, and 84% of them, we were measuring their cancer biomarkers, and 84% of them saw those biomarkers decline, including about a quarter of them that saw their ctDNA completely reduced to zero. So what's exciting is when you look at the long-term impact of that, these patients who have had chemo, who have had surgery, have already biologically relapsed, and they typically will relapse in 5 to 6 months. And what we've seen as a median relapse-free survival is 16 months. So we're already seeing an impact in these patients. And for the patients that had the highest level of T cell above a median level, we haven't even reached an RFS yet. So we're very, very excited about what we saw there. It allowed us to kick off the phase 2, which is in pancreatic cancer. That's enrolling quickly. We expect to be able to give the interim data on that about this time next year. So we have another phase 1 that is going on. We'll be able this year to give additional data from both the phase 1 that was in Nature, but also in the second phase 1, which is an expanded version of this vaccine that is the vaccine that it's now in phase 2. So very, very excited about this program and what it could mean out there for patients that really don't have any options today.
Yeah, and I don't have personal experience, but I can only imagine how tough it is to deal with cancer, think you're in the clear, and then you got to come back and deal with it again. So when you, in your opening remarks, talked about, hey, we don't just take care of it in the beginning, but also when it comes back, we go ahead and hit you with it again so you can go ahead and take care of that. I think that's definitely some important work. You provided some good insights on what's to come from the study that you mentioned. Are there any upcoming 2024 milestones, or maybe beyond if you want to touch on them, that our retail investors that are possible investors in your companies can expect?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we already hit 2 of them. You hit one of them, which was the Nature Medicine, and then the other one was starting with phase 2. Yeah. But at the AACR meeting, we'll show additional translational data there, looking at T cell levels, but also some data from our preclinical programs. But I think the big milestones for us this year will be additional data from the phase 1, which is a 7 mutation or 7 peptide version of our vaccine, which is the version that's in the phase 2. No one has seen any data on that. We've obviously have good data, so we were able to move through the phase 2. So we'll hopefully show that in the first half of this year. And then ongoing data as we continue to follow the patients from both of these phase 1s to see what the long-term responses are. So a number of different milestones for us this year, and then the interim data in Q1 of next year.
Is there anything that you want to, I kind of give the floor to you, but also sometimes company gets mistaken or the messaging is unclear because of outside actors. We'll leave it at that. Is there anything that folks are getting wrong about your company, whether it's in what you've done or what you're going to do? Any insight you want to provide there?
No, I think we became public through a reverse merger. So we just kind of appeared on the scene last summer. So awareness is building of the company. Yeah. I think one of the things overall is that cancer vaccines just haven't had a great history. But that's really changing, not just with us, but with other technologies. And so there's a lot more openness now about looking at cancer vaccines. I think what's really unique about what we're doing, though, is the lymph node targeting. This is a monotherapy, so we're not combining it with other programs, and this is off the shelf. So there's a lot of vaccines that are personalized to the individual patient, which is time-consuming, costly. Yeah. This is an off-the-shelf, which it can be applied to anyone that has these mutations, and that's a very unique aspect of this technology.
Now, lastly, before I let you go, when it comes to doing something like this, it obviously, requires a little bit of help in terms of whether it's a financing side or the research side or anything like that. I've always been curious how the government comes into play. And I don't have a specific question, but just kind of an overall aspect of it. Do government grants come into play here with helping with certain studies, clinical trials, R&D, or anything like that? I mean, how does that kind of come into play? And the reason I ask is because you have election year coming up, and I'm not asking you to pick one way or another, but I'm just curious if something like that could impact the work you're doing.
Well, certainly the regulation part of it is impacted by the government. And I think there's been great strides made in terms of being able, particularly in cancer, in working with the FDA. But there's so many different foundations that are doing great work to advance. And we benefit from that with several grants in the last 18 months. And so I think we're getting help from both sides, both the foundation side and the government side.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. Thank you so much for your time, and really look forward to more conversations as you achieve these milestones that you've set out, similar to what you did in January.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.